All right, guys, in this video, we're going to look a little bit closer at the differences and similarities between mitosis and meiosis. So a couple questions we want to be able to answer when we're done with this. We want to know how mitosis and meiosis are similar, and we want to know how they're different. All right. We want to know the specific use for mitosis, and we want to know the specific use for meiosis. So we really want to be able to answer questions that say things like, in which situation would mitosis apply, or in which situation would meiosis be most likely to be occurring? What, in a heart cell, do we get mitosis or meiosis? That kind of thing. We want to make sure that we know the differences and the similarities well enough to answer questions that might try to confuse us between the two. So, quick overview of mitosis. Number one, it happens all the time in your body. As you grow and develop, it creates what we call somatic cells. All right, that word means body cells. Okay, it has one division step. Remember that by PMAT, PMAT, right, which stands for prophase, metaphase, anaphase, and telophase. It makes two daughter cells that are identical to each other, and they're identical to the mother cell with a parent cell. Another way to say that is that they're clones. They're clones of the parent cell. Because mitosis makes clones, all right, the conclusion that we can kind of draw from that is that all the cells in your body have the same set of DNA, no matter what type of cell it is. The difference between, say, a heart cell and a liver cell is what parts of the DNA are expressed, okay, what parts of the DNA are utilized. Now, in meiosis, we only find meiosis occurring in the reproductive organs, so that's going to be the testes and the ovaries. There are two sets of divisions. That's going to make four gametes. The gametes are different from each other, and they're different from the parent cell. Now, remember that anytime you see something that says prophase 1, right, or prophase 2, if you see a Roman numeral at the end of P, M, A, or T, right, prophase, metaphase, anaphase, or telophase, that should tell you right away, hey, you're talking about meiosis. Okay, that's a dead giveaway in the name. The purpose of mitosis is to take a two-end cell, a diploid cell, and to divide it and end up with two diploid cells from one. So I have a diploid cell, right? It's got two chromosomes there, and we're going to make two clones. Now, along that line, right, in order to go from one parent cell to two daughter cells, I need to double that DNA first, right? So that's when our S phase and interphase comes into play. Some further things are like the reasons why mitosis needs to occur in your body. You've got to replace your old cells. As cells, do their job and grow older, they get worn out. They start to be bad at their job. They need to be replaced. If you're going to grow, right, if you're going to get taller, stronger, right, you need to grow your muscles. You need more muscle cells. So your cells have to divide and split and grow. In the animal kingdom, we actually find mitosis as a part of reproduction, but only for asexual reproduction. So remember that A out in front means the opposite of. So this is the opposite of sexual reproduction. And some three kinds of asexual reproduction that utilize mitosis are budding, in which case an offspring literally just buds off. The hydra, which is an animal that lives in the ocean. It kind of looks like this. All right, it's got we call this a foot or a pedicle. Here's like the body, and then it's got tentacles, and it will just like bud off a little copy of itself. That's called a bud, and the bud will fall off, and then it will grow and make a new, adult, and it's a perfect clone of the one beforehand. Fragmentation is another way where an organism breaks apart and pieces form new organisms. A brittle starfish can do this. the brittle, I think I just misspelled that, brittle starfish. Brittle starfish are super annoying if you're keeping a saltwater tank. So like they're really small, they can get sucked into the filtration system, and they go through a pump, and it breaks them into a bunch of little pieces. And then you go and open up your sump pump to clean it, and all those little pieces have grown new starfish. You're like thousands of starfish down there, like clogging things up. It's terrible. Vegetative propagation is another asexual form of reproduction. You've actually probably seen this before. I actually have a magnolia tree in my yard that's doing this right now. So there's a tree, right? I have a magnolia tree. And before I bought my house, there used to be a branch right here. And it broke off. And when it broke off, it tore the bark all the way down to the root. And now every couple months, there are sprouts that are trying to grow out of there of new magnolia tree. That's vegetative propagation. I usually just cut them down. Now, cancer is also an issue that can come about through uncontrolled mitosis. So when you have a problem regulating the cell cycle and the cell just divides and divides and divides and divides and divides, and it doesn't properly go through interphase, then you get what's called runaway mitosis. It's just dividing nonstop. And that creates a big mass of cells. We call that mass a tumor, and that can press on other healthy tissues, that can interfere with other tissues doing their jobs correctly. And more often than not, it's the result of multiple mutations in the regulatory genes that kind of tell the cell what to do. Let's switch gears and go over and look at the purpose of meiosis. So in meiosis, a 2N diploid cell is going to divide twice and make 4 haploid cells. Those sex cells are our gametes, okay, and they're only used for sexual reproduction. There's 2 names for meiosis as far as male and females are concerned. There's spermatogenesis, which produces 4 male gametes called sperm. We looked at them in the other video. They kind of look like that. They have a flagella, a little tail on the end, lets them swim. The other one is one of my favorite words in science. This is females undergo oogenesis. That's how you say that. Oogenesis. Think Latin, ova, right, for the egg. So oogenesis produce the eggs. It actually only makes 1 egg and 3 what we call polar bodies. So you have the egg, and then you have these like little leftover polar bodies around it. The egg is the cell that we care about, and those 3 polar bodies are they're also made, but they're not viable eggs. In both cases, all right, we would have we'd want to be able to recognize that. Now, there's a dead giveaway for a sperm cell compared to an egg cell. Sperm cells have flagellum, right? That should be a pretty easy giveaway. But there is another one. Notice how big the egg cell and how small the polar bodies are, right? Also, just to kind of show off your knowledge of diploid and haploid, right? We've got 1 red and 1 blue, and we started with 4 red chromatids and 4 blue chromatids, right? So when we start with that, we end up with 1, 2, 3, 4. There are the 4 red chromatids, okay? Same thing with the blue. So hopefully you can answer these questions now. I would take a minute, write them down in your notebook, see if you can answer them after watching this video. If you have questions, let me know.